William Joseph Seymour, May 2, 1870, September 28, 1922, was a holiness Pentecostal preacher who initiated the Azusa Street Revival, an influential event in the rise of the Pentecostal and charismatic movements, particularly holiness Pentecostalism. He was the second of 8 children born in an African-American family to emancipated slaves and raised Catholic in extreme poverty in Louisiana. Seymour was a student of the early Pentecostal minister Charles Parham, and he adopted Parham's belief that speaking in tongues was the sign of receiving the baptism in the Holy Spirit. In 1906, Seymour moved to Los Angeles, California, where he preached the Pentecostal message and sparked the Azusa Street Revival. The revival drew large crowds of believers as well as media coverage that focused on the controversial religious practices as well as the racially integrated worship services, which violated the racial norms of the time. Seymour's leadership of the revival and publication of the Apostolic Faith newspaper launched him into prominence within the young Pentecostal movement. Seymour broke with Parham in 1906 over theological differences. As the revival's influence extended beyond Los Angeles through evangelism and missionary work, Seymour was in the process of developing the revival into a larger organization called the Apostolic Faith Movement. This process was ultimately defeated by power struggles with other ministers, such as Florence Crawford and William Howard Durham, which ultimately damaged the unity of the early Pentecostal movement and led to a decrease in Seymour's influence. By 1914, the revival was past its peak, but Seymour continued to pastor the Apostolic Faith mission he founded until his death. The revival acted as a catalyst for the spread of Pentecostal practices, such as speaking in tongues and integrated worship, throughout the world. It also played an important role in the history of most major Pentecostal denominations. William Joseph Seymour was the second of 8 children born to emancipated slaves Simon and Phyllis Salabar Seymour in Centerville, Louisiana. He was baptized as a child at the Church of the Assumption in Franklin, a Catholic parish. In 1884, when Seymour was 14 years old, his parents built a house about 1.5 miles from his birthplace adjacent to the New Providence Baptist Church in Centerville that the family likely attended while remaining Catholics. While serving in the Union Army during the Civil War, Seymour's father contracted an illness from which he finally died in November 1891. The 21-year-old William then became the primary provider for his family, growing subsistence crops with very limited income from other sources. The family was able to keep their property but lived at the poverty level. Seymour grew up during a period of heightened racism that likely led to his decision to move north, away from the persecution endured by Southern blacks around the turn of the century.